item G, information consent calendar. Looking for a motion to approve the balance of the calendar.
Was there an item pulled?
G1.
G1?
Yes.
Who pulled it?
Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any public comment on the balance of the calendar? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Okay, we'll take up item G1.
Yeah, I asked this to be pulled last time for a couple of reasons, and anyway, I see that they got one of the reasons they got that fixed, which is a good thing. And my second question was, we was going to look into seeing about hosting this ourselves, et cetera, the cost of, and what's our response on that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I discussed that issue with the clerk and indicated that the board would like to know if we've evaluated the possibility of hosting it in-house. The clerk's response was to request the item be agendized, and with the same recommendation, she indicated they were very busy with the election, and the contract allows for to get out of it at virtually any time, I think 30 days out, and that she would be happy to evaluate that alternative in the future. So I left it on the agenda.
Thank you. So did you talk to IT at all about?
Yeah, I did also talk with our IT staff. They indicated that they looked into this, I believe it was in 2011 when they initially began this process of looking at the imaging system, and at that time made the determination that it would be more cost effective to go with the outside entity. I questioned them as to whether or not, because I know how quickly things change in information technology, if they've reevaluated it. They have not had time.
What would be the time frame for it?
As a matter of prioritization, we could make that happen very soon if we viewed it as a high priority. The IT staff have a lot of projects in the queue. I could, if it's the board's request, I could prioritize that and have them get an answer sooner rather than later.
Well, I don't know if anybody else has any questions. I'm sure we pretty much covered all those.
If there's nothing else on the board, I think public comment.
I'm curious, this is web hosting that you're considering. Does anybody know how Granicus interacts with your website?
With the imaging software, I don't.
That would maybe be something that could come up the next time you agendize it to ask, because in the past the old agenda minutes software, according to Susan, had a lot of problems uploading things. When minutes weren't posted, it was always the web hosting's problem. And various other excuses for not having the minutes and agendas posted. So 6,000 doesn't seem to be a big deal of money, but if it's going to not interact with Granicus and cause more problems, it's a question probably that should be asked. If nobody knows right now.
I'm not sure that nobody knows. I don't know.
Well, this particular item doesn't deal with Granicus. It deals with the recorder's office.
It's web hosting, which Granicus runs in the background.
Not on this just, Americus, I don't think runs on the same web hosting that this system is. This is a standalone separate system, I believe.
I don't know. I'm asking.
Well, that's a good question to ask, but I think the answer when it's, addressed, we'll find out it's two separate systems, because it's really two different functions and departments. And the funding for this is from dedicated fees that come in through the recorder side. So I don't know if you could use that program to be operating other platforms for other divisions or departments. Yeah,
As
this
long
is-
as everybody's guessing, it would be nice to know the
I'm not
answer.
guessing, because I know I've inquired about this and I've talked to staff. And this is the way in which the recorder documents that deal with property transactions and a whole host of other activities that they do in terms of creating this is an upgrade and it's designed to create get their presence beefed up so that people can access those kind of records online, but it's in the recorder's division. And that's why I mean, you're suggesting maybe it's being used for other things other than recorders, and that may be, but my understanding in talking from staff that that's not what this is about the recorders side of the operation. And so they're not going to be running in the background any other activity from any other department.
How many web hosts does the county have to run your website?
Well, we have over 30 departments, and so I would imagine several of those departments have 2 and 3 divisions, so the potential for web hosting could be numerous. And there is a value to having it segregated that way, so if you have one size fits all and everything is all on one system, and that system fails, then you've got a whole host of problems. And I know that for a while there, the clerk's office, district general stuff, not this, had problems dealing with IT in terms of dealing with their accessibility to the net. So they were actually going outside of the normal county general website and had maintained their own website because that was the only way they could get stuff uploaded and transferred. Now I think that's changed because I think the IT folks have worked out whatever the protocol problems they were having, and things are a little bit more integrated. But I think most departments pretty much, people a lot of times make the mistake that the county is this one big monolithic body, and it's not. It's really a consortium of smaller bodies. I mean, even when we've got 430 employees that work for the county, but there are a lot of other agencies that aren't tied directly to the county that uses the county name.
I don't mean to interrupt, but was not my concern. It's that you can click on Lassen County's website.
Yeah.
Within that website, you can go to the recorder's office.
Right.
You can go to
Richard's
office.
It serves as a clearinghouse, and we have a lot of links to internally to different departments as well as to agencies outside of the county that have interest of working with the county. But once you get to that link, that hosting of that particular function is not necessarily integrated as part of the county's overall. It may be a link that takes you to a separate, source where that particular body of information is stored and managed. And this is one of those little modules like that. So Granicus would take you to another link over here, and the recorder goes over here, and Health and Social Services probably have a dozen or more different links to go to different activities that they do. It's not one. That's the point I was trying to make for you. You asked the question, I'm trying to give you an answer. I realize the answer is not what you maybe are looking for, so I'm done. So that's all I would offer to the board.
A few years ago, you had a total revamp of your website, which is really nice. Who did that? A web host did that? You paid so much money to have somebody redesign and host your website?
That was a combination of a lot of efforts. Our staff does some of the input to the website. You're talking about the county website, is that right?
Right.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think you're all avoiding it, but that's okay. I understand why you don't want it.
thank you for your comments.
Well, it's not a question how to answer, it's a question of the answer we're given, and this one that you want, so therefore, that's okay. You're good, you're good.
Okay, thanks. So the action request is approve agreement, authorize chairman to sign.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
It's a pleasure.
yeah, I would make the motion that we do that, but the proviso we would add too, and I think this was part of our discussion we had at the last session, we just came up with the blanks being filled in, is that staff be directed to look at alternatives to this hosting. We need something that has to go into effect by December 1st, so you can't stop now, you gotta do something. But the $6,000 per year, we were talking about maybe cheaper alternatives that would meet the same need, and if that could be done or could be identified, that we would make that shift in the future. This thing has a termination clause, so if we do
30-day
come, yeah, so if we come up,
Zero-day termination clause.
yeah, so if we,
In writing,
yeah, so if we-
immediate.
yeah, so if we come up with something 18 months from now or 6 months from now or whatever, short of a 5-year period of time, that would be a preferred way to take care of this need, that they be directed to research those and report back to the board and make that as part of the motion.
Who specifically, the elected department?
I would say the department, the CAO, and the IT folks, I mean, because it's going to require all of you to, you know, the IT is going to tell you what your options are. The department has an interest to get the job done, and the administration has to oversee the budget side. So I would say,
My reason for asking that, I think it'd be appropriate to utilize this recorder's micrographic trust funds to fund that. Yeah, you know, we have an IT contract essentially that we pay to do this sort of thing, so I think it would be appropriate to use funds out of that trust.
well, that's what
to
that
do
trust is designed for, I think.
this. Just want to clarify.
So Susan, did you get that motion in its entirety?
I believe it is. But I don't have a second yet.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, any more public comment before we take action? All right, so moving and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. All right, we'll take up item H1. This is a piece of information I received, and I thought it was something worthwhile to share with the board and with the community, media, etc. It's basically, it's a good piece of information from the American Recreation Coalition that really just highlights the importance of our public lands, Forest Service, and it gives some good data and statistics on the revenue that's generated in the rural communities from activities like snowmobiling, fishing, camping, hiking, skiing, etc. And just how vast those sums of money are, and how without prohibited access to our public lands, they're take up a big part of our county. How detrimental, when there's roadblocks or closures or anything that prohibits the public's use of those lands, what a negative financial impact it has on the county. So that was really the reason why I wanted to include this in the agenda. Just to share the information.
And thank you for doing that. And I would just add, this would be on the second page of your handout. One of the things that jumped out at me was talking about camping at both public and private sites is also rising. Peak season business for 2014 was up substantially from 2013 levels, according to the Campgrounds of America, KOA, the largest network of private campgrounds in America. Well, we had the opportunity about a month or so ago in the Rotary Club of Susanville, and I think we also spoke to the New Rotary Club. The chairman and CEO of KOA, which is based in Billings, Montana, the gentleman who is, Jim Rogers is his name, gave a program at Rotary and talked about significantly about how those folks who, in terms of dealing with the obesity issue and other health issues in the country, that those families or individuals who become active, and whether it's in camping or any sort of these outdoor activities, how it kind of addresses some of the health crisis that, we're now facing or talking about in the country. Of course, he obviously is in the business of that. He's also happens to be the president of the Sierra Nevada Council, Area Council for the Boy Scouts, which takes in all of Nevada and northeastern California. And so he kind of shares his time between Reno and Billings, and that's how we were fortunate to have him. But he actually focused on a number of the points that this memo has, and gave a great presentation. So I just want to say that not only reading it in this fashion, but having heard firsthand from an individual who's actively involved at the national level in these kind of issues, promoting what it is. And of course, we talked about recreation tourism, and I know that the LADC group is focused on that, and I appreciate the work that Richard has done building upon what Marty got started in terms of with Joel and developing a trail system and developing the opportunity for people to get out and about. That's really where the dollars are driven by this particular effort. And rural America is well poised to benefit from that. And one of the few things that maybe we can get out of the economic reorganization, because we have what the urban areas don't have, and that is open space, clean air, and a more quiet, peaceful lifestyle.
How hard is it to place those KOA campgrounds?
They're franchises. They're franchises. So I think the nearest one we have around here is in Redding. I actually just in the mail came up my box at the county, but he sent some material through. I just picked it up Monday. I haven't had a chance to look through it, but there is a directory of all the KOA campgrounds in all of the United States, and I think they have them up in Canada and around. But it would be interesting to take that and expand on it as it relates to that. I'd be more than happy to share the material that is separate to the rest of the board.
We have a couple of pretty good locations for those KOA campgrounds.
Yeah, what he explained at the meeting was that they're basically all franchise, and they have like, what did he say? It's in that directory, but it's like 600 or 700 of them, and they're scattered all over, but they're actually owned locally.
Independent.
Yeah, they're independent, but they have to subscribe to the standards, and they're managed. They're overseen. And his job is he travels the country and goes and visits
The
the
campgrounds.
campgrounds. And in fact, I think one of the things, the Undercover Boss, the TV program that is on about a year and a half ago, he was featured as going into this one campground and basically acting as though he's just getting hired on and stuff, just to see how they worked amongst themselves and dealt with their clients and stuff. And it was the second highest rated boss for that season in terms of people that. But anyway, it was quite a fascinating program that he gave, and I think it'd be great if we could maybe see about fostering something like
That's
that
exactly what I
in
was
the
thinking.
immediate area.
Westwood would be wonderful. Biz Johnson Trail.
You could probably do one there right behind the market.
That's a destination location.
The other thing this kind of ties into as far as Lassen County, that, you have your bike trails up here we've been talking about with the roadside crossings. And the other part they really don't talk about in here is they talk about the fishing and whatnot, but they don't talk about the hunting. And if you look at Lassen County, we're very unique in the fact that we have sage grouse, there are sage grouse hunters that come up here. We have pronghorn antelope. Very few in the only ones in the North State that have antelope. And then of course, I don't know about you guys down here, but we have a phenomenal number of ground schools up there in our area. We get people from San Jose and Petaluma, from all over coming up, and we'll be retired guys, we get a motel room, and, we shoot the squirrels for free, But, those are all things that add to the economy, that are all recreation oriented, that have a good time, and it's important, and that's part of the reason why we need to go back to the comments on the lead ammunition, is for those things I just stated again. It's very vital to our economy up there. We have those resources, we need to keep them utilized.
The KOA doesn't have to be right at the trailhead, so it has to be in the general area, so people will come and use that as their base for parking their RV, and then they can go out in whatever direction. And I think with the high desert we have to the east and the mountains and timber to the west and south, I mean, I think this area would be a good general location to try to get something like that established. But he's around, he's available, and he's somebody that, he was quite a dynamic individual. But the way he said that with Boy Scouts, teaching, young people to go out and camp and survive on their own and socialize, that, the statistics show that those are the folks that can go on and will lead a very healthy, productive life, and because of that outdoor connection, and that's kind of what these guys are talking about.
Good, very good, thank you. Is there any public comment on this before we move on?
Yeah, can we put the campground where emergency services cannot go to? Up in Winnemucca, there was a problem with emergency services getting to there, so I excuse my sarcasm on that one. But you want to put it where the emergency services can't get to it, and then also the snow. A lot of these people have fifth wheels and
Snowmobile.
yeah, right. But how does the services get to there in case they need them and stuff? And, what have you.
Thank you. Can you just state your name again?
I'm sorry, Thomas Lassen.
Okay, thanks. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Betcha. Thanks. All righty, that's,
Would it be possible for Richard to maybe distribute a copy of this to the LADC folks and others that are part of that? And I think that's information that would be of interest to them as well.
we'll move on to item H2.
H2. And so H2 was, I asked that be agendized again for further direction to staff. That, as you all know, we attended October 28 at the Veterans Hall, the study session, to receive public input related to the possible updating of Ordinance 575 or some other alternative of dealing with that situation as it presented itself. And there was considerable testimony received. I think that, for me at least, the conclusion was that the law has, I don't want to say changed, but certainly been confirmed since the decision in Morale versus Live Oak in late 2013 that essentially, I'm going to say confirmed rather than changed. It confirmed the authority of a local entity such as Lassen County, or as in the Live Oak case, city, the authority in a proper exercise of its police power to essentially zone the time, place, and manner in which the cultivation of marijuana could occur, medical or otherwise, medical or like I said, medical or otherwise. And so that really was the kicking off point, if you will, for the study session. I think I correctly noted at the time that Live Oak gives us the authority, gives U5 the authority to essentially ban it on a countywide basis. That's not the consensus that I heard at the conclusion of the meeting. I was left with the impression, again, tell me if I'm wrong, I was left with the impression that the supervisors did not support necessarily an all-out ban countywide. Rather, perhaps you supported reasonable restrictions related to the time, place, and manner of cultivation. And that's really kind of where I think we left off. It had been a fairly long afternoon, and a lot of information presented. And like I say, I think that's where we left off. Now, I'll tell you, from a lawyer's perspective, it's a lot easier. I'm not expressing a desire to go there necessarily, because I have some distinct opinions about whether it would drive grows underground and it would borrow trouble for us legally. But certainly from a lawyer's perspective, a countywide ban is easier to write. I can tell you that. I mean, that's very straightforward. But that's not what I think you all expressed at the study session, at the conclusion of the study session. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm hoping you'll correct me. But again, that's just the beginning. There are many different variations of time, place, and manner restrictions, many different. Certainly I could craft an amendment to Ordinance 575 and bring something to you, but I think I would just be inviting getting shot down as it's not an expression of your will, it's an expression of what I thought you want. I don't have enough information for that, is what I'm saying. And so I think there's some pretty serious questions to be answered in terms of, just as I set out in my brief letter to you for today's agenda, to what degree would you like to permit the cultivation of marijuana? Do you want it to be just indoor, or do you want it to be just outdoor, or some combination of either? Assuming cultivation is permitted outside, should there be a fencing requirement, screened from view? Should there be a plant count limitation, a total plant count limitation, and if so, how many? Are you going to distinguish between, like they attempted to in Senate Bill 420, immature plants or juvenile, and I don't even remember the language that they ultimately tried to impose, but I think it was shot down in the Kelly decision. Do you want to limit the number of patients that a collective serves rather than 99? Do you want the number, not 99 patients, I misspoke, 99 clients. Do you want to limit the number of patients that a collective at one location could grow for? Just a few of the basic questions, and those relate to, I kind of, by the way, lump them into two different categories. The first category is what you can grow and where you can grow it and how you can grow it, and maybe for who you can grow it. But the second, and I think as equally significant, if not more significant, is the enforcement component. And having a well thought out enforcement component, one that, and I indicated in my letter to you that I think it prudent that the district attorney and the sheriff participate in this discussion. If you craft an ordinance that they don't, in their elected authority, choose to support, or for whatever reason, I can't imagine that being the case, but they should be part of the discussion as it relates to that part of it, at least. Maybe they should be part of the discussion as it relates to the first part, too. But I see those two components, and kind of stepping back just a little bit, I guess my question is so this is on the agenda today, and, it was just posted on the agenda, provide further direction to staff. It was a kind of nebulous entry on the agenda, yet we've drawn some folks here. I guess my point is there a process that you would like to utilize other than just agendizing at a regular meeting for the purpose of working through some of these policy decisions? Is there an interest or not in having a sort of menu, if you will? And this is just what occurred to me. I'm certainly available for other suggestions. Is there an interest in having a menu of choices published in advance and a sort of flow chart, if you will? Well, if you're going to authorize indoor grows, then you must have sort of conditional use permit, so that inspection can be made for appropriate electrical facilities and or the appropriate cultivation site being away from bedrooms and or alternative exits for children or adults in case of fire. I mean, just thoughts, okay? And if there's a menu of choices, should that be noticed in advance and for another study session? Just thinking out loud here, or not. And so I'm looking for more direction from you is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make a quick point.
Yes, sir.
I would, very good. These, all these points you have, the problem is, I see trying to get some constructive out of this. There's a lot of points, there's 5 different personalities.
Yes, sir.
It's almost like a culmination block. There's like 1,000 possibilities.
Consensus, I think, is the word that I'm hoping to gather
So-
before I craft an amended ordinance and
I
present
think
it to you.
what we'll do, we'll get some comment from the board, go to the public, then I'd like to take up each one of these points and just have each one of us give a quick input to you, so you can take notes of what our personal
Yes, sir.
preferences are. And I think at the end of that exercise, you'll have a good idea of the pulse of the board, where we sit as a group.
Okay.
It's obviously, we're all gonna not be identical, but you'll be
Understood.
good, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Chapman?
Well, I want to